Hello, my friend, and welcome. You may know people that do channeling or transmissions as I do. And what we're really transmitting or channeling is an aspect of ourself. An aspect of ourself. We think we're channeling something else, whether it be Jesus or Buddha, Kuan Yin, Ramana. But really that's not so. All of this is an aspect of what we are. That's why we can channel in this way. That's why we can transmit this energy of Ramana or Buddha or Jesus. Because this is an aspect of what we are. We have never been separate from any of this. There is no separation. In this video, I want to talk about God, because there's a lot of misunderstandings about what God is. In the mystic Jewish traditions, it is said that the code of God is coded into the very DNA, our DNA, and the DNA of everything, every living being. Rocks and trees and rivers. This is God. God is in everything, is the source of everything, is the source of you, the source of me. And we have never been separate from this. In any way, we have never been separate from this. So when we channel Ramana, Buddha, Jesus, that's really just an aspect of what we are. It's a wonderful aspect, and it's wonderful to be able to transmit this energy or to channel the words of these beings, but they are what we are. That's why we can do it. You are not separate from Buddha, from Jesus, from God. Because you're not separate from God, you're not separate from any of these other beings as well. Now, it also means we're not separate from Hitler, not separate from Attila the Hun. But when we channel or transmit, we're usually not channeling these beings, because these beings are very connected to ignorance of the ego, of the separate self, which is why they create so much harm in the world. And beings like Jesus, like Buddha, like Ramana, are open to their true nature as God. They're much closer to this. So this is what we channel, because this is what God wants us to channel. This is what we transmit, because this is what God wants us to transmit. Now, many people feel that there's like God wants to be worshipped in religions. God wants this. God doesn't want anything. God only gives. That's all God is capable of doing. God has no separate self. So the idea that God is vengeful or God, wants to be worshipped or wants something from us is completely false. God only gives. God always gives and only gives. So you can see in these awakened beings, Jesus, Buddha, Ramana, people like this, they're always giving. They're selfless. They're always giving completely, selflessly, taking nothing for themselves, asking nothing for themselves, because this is the nature of God. This is the nature of God. And God is transmitting through these beings. And through any of us that have let go of this separate self and live a life of love, of continual giving and not taking, not saying, what's in it for me? Jesus never said this, what's in it for me? Ramana never said, what's in it for me? Buddha never said, what's in it for me? How can I benefit from doing this? There was never a thought of this. Because without a self, there is no me. There is just the totality. And that's God. The totality. No separation. No me. So that's why we live in a way that's selfless. The closer we are to God, the more we live in love and selfless actions. We're not worried about what we're going to get. And when I transmit or do these videos, it's not for what I can get. Will you like me? Will you think I'm good? Will you give me some money? I'm just giving. Because that's what God does. And that's the source of what I am and what you are. As long as we feel we're separate from God, this separate being, this separate independent person, we want things for ourselves. We talk about, like, do I have enough boundaries? God never says, do I have enough boundaries? Because there are no boundaries in reality, in God. Where would a boundary be? In every single being, rock and tree and leaf of grass and speck of dirt, that's God. Where would you draw a boundary? There is no boundary. There are no boundaries. This is all the illusion of the ignorant mind, of the ego. So the closer we are to God, the more our heart opens to all. To all. The more we're filled with love. And that's it. We're not trying to get love from other people. We're giving. We're giving. That's all we can do. That's all God does. God gives. Continually gives. Without asking anything in return. This is unconditional love. This is the very nature of reality. And God. And you, whether you know it or not. So the more we live in the world through this open giving, this open love, the more we're in alignment with God, and the more we're in alignment with our true self, our true being. So when I do these transmissions, and I do silent transmissions, you'll see some from this, what comes through here, without the sense of a self, without looking for something, without asking for anything, just giving, just pure giving, just love. That's what flows through me. That's what flows through these eyes. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just giving. Not because I'm trying to give. It's just inevitable and effortless. There's nothing I can do to stop it, nor would I want to. And you receive this giving because I'm giving to something that's not separate from me. This same in you. The same God in you. It's as if God is communicating with itself. That's what this transmission is. It's God communicating with itself. To God, there are no other beings. There are no others. They're just aspects of itself. How can you not feel complete unconditional love if you experience this? So if you let this go deeper, I am not speaking to your mind. Your mind is the thing that feels it separate, that divides things up into names and forms. Your heart knows different. Your heart knows what's real, that there is no separation. And when I'm speaking to you, it's God speaking to itself. All any awake being does is simply get out of the way. That's all. We get this separate self idea and illusion out of the way. And what's left is this. What's left is God. You cannot understand God with your mind. No one ever has. The mind is very limited. But your heart has always known God. Your heart knows that in your very DNA, your genetic makeup is God. That you cannot be separate from God. Not a single molecule in your body can be separate from God. Nor anything that you perceive is separate from God. That's why all I can really talk to is God. That's why if you feel this transmission, it's just you're waking up to your true being, to your true nature. And you're waking up because this is what you are. This is the truth of what you are. You wake up as an experience, a feeling, an inner knowing through your heart, through love, through a deep, deep peace. This is the wisdom of the heart, the wisdom of God. So much of this transmission we do in silence because it's something more than the mind can understand. And this is an introduction to God in a way that's not a belief, not a thought, but a direct, undeniable experience. And all I do as this body-mind is just get out of the way. That's all. I just don't interfere with it. I let this illusion of a separate self take a holiday. Move into the background so that I'm open for what's real. And that helps you be open too. somehow simply looking into my eyes, perhaps you can feel this. Perhaps you can see this. This is not me speaking to you. This is only one. No me and you. No self and other. Just God. Thank you, my friend. If that wasn't long enough for you, you can play it back again. And maybe I'll do another one now, which is just the silence, just the silent transmission. Something very powerful is happening here. And it has nothing to do with me as a separate person, as Peter, or you as a separate person. It's beyond that.